Welcome back to another edition of the Three Stooges Podcast. Joe Davidson, longtime Sacramento Bee. Chris Jackson, going to be long time at West Coast Preps. Jordan Georgeson is got the look of a guy who's going to be around for a long time. They all do great stuff. Jordan with Gold Country Media, with the pulse on the whole state. We try to keep tabs on everything that's going good and interesting or controversial that tie into the to this region of high school sports, the whole state, or even people who are somehow connected. And we've got a couple of tough topics to talk, or one really tough topic to address right away. Troy Taylor, the Sacramento State former head football coach, led them to their finest seasons in the 70-year history of the program. Cordova High School star, Sacramento Bee, 1985 Player of the Year, Cal Bears record-setting quarterback, 2 years at Stanford University football, and he has been fired. And that was, I tell you guys, it's as tough of a story as I've ever had to write, outside of an obituary when you're saying, casting farewell to somebody. But Troy Taylor, just over a week ago, was the subject of a bombshell ESPN report about third-party investigations into Stanford football, with Troy's quote concerning behavior of allegedly bullying and belittling female staffers. We'll dig into that, but I would have thought they would have fired him then if that was a real problem. But then Andrew Luck, the general manager of Stanford football, yesterday of this week, did drop the hammer. I think there's probably a lot of pressure to do that. It's going to be interesting to see where Troy lands. All-time great coach, masterful, and I've seen him, and we'll talk about how he handles competition and things like that. And I had a conversation with him a couple of days ago. And Mike Bibby, former Sacramento Kings guard, is now a back in Sacramento with the Sacramento State Hornets. His first college gig, and he's now the head coach for the basketball program. He's got a monstrous challenge. It's been a program that's been mediocre or miserable forever. And we're going to talk about, is this a good hire? Is this a big name hire? What can he offer? Is he going to recruit locally? He has a kid from Placer County coming his way on a full scholarship. Jordan knows about Mark Lavender well, and we'll talk about what they can do there. So many other things. Major League Baseball guys from Sacramento on opening day, spring stat marvels, a bunch of scouts, baseball scouts were at a game that Chris Jackson covered this week. We'll talk about all that, but there we go. So, Chris, I'm going to throw it to you. Why don't we touch on your thoughts on Bibby, and then we'll throw over to Jordan, and then we'll circle back, and I'll touch on Taylor.
I mean, I think you've probably said it best yesterday when you posted the story and everything that it's a splash hire, right? It's Mike Bibby's a legend in this area. A lot of people, you still see a lot of Mike Bibby jerseys. I was at the Kings game last night, and I would probably need a lot more than two or three or four hands to count how many people still had a Mike Bibby jersey on. It's a unique hire. He doesn't have much or if any college coaching experience, right? But he's coached at his alma mater in Arizona for high school ball, where he did a great job there. You look at 6 seasons at Shadow Mountain, 5 as a head coach, 5 state titles, 157 and 21. Thing is, if you're a good coach, you're a good coach, right? Becoming a leader, teaching the X's and O's, tacticians. The only difference is at the college level, the recruiting, the NIL space, now the transfer portal and all of that as well. How does he manage that? How does he manage looking at the portal, roster retention, hiring a staff that can recruit certain areas, but also hit the portal, a staff for some defensive-minded coaches, some offensive-minded coaches? Where do they come from? Who does he have experience with from the past? Maybe there's former teammates of his in the coaching game as well. It's a splash hire for sure. It gets people talking about Sacramento State, especially just kind of the lows that program's had for quite some time. Look at the talks that football's had. There was the whole thing of people talking about Michael Vick going there. Of course, I think Brendan Marion's a splash hire and a great hire there. And look at what that's done for Sacramento State as they want to elevate that athletic department into more upper tier Division I, right? Going from FCS to FBS. And it's a unique hire. It's kind of shocking, Mike Bibby becoming the head coach to me, because I'm not as involved in that sphere of college basketball and covering that as obviously you are, Joe, and what you've done on that beat. But yeah, Sacramento State needed to do something, and this is that type of hire that gets people talking about you. And who knows, maybe he doesn't have that experience recruiting wise, college coaching wise, and maybe some ways that the way that this game is changing day by day, maybe that's also a good thing.
You
Tend
know,
to
he's got a good player coming in.
go ahead, Joe.
That Mike Bibby, the new Sac State basketball coach, has got a pretty good player coming in. He's already signed. He's ready to go. Big Mark Lavinrob. Give us a refresher on what this young man can do and has done, his size, his ability. I think he's going to transition just fine into Sacramento State. I think it'll be a big boost, and he's excited about it.
Absolutely. And I actually reached out to Mark yesterday, asking him if he's gotten a chance to talk to Bibby yet and how he feels about the hire. And he said he hasn't gotten to talk to him yet, but he's really excited to play for him. A guy that grew up in this area obviously knows who Mike Bibby is. I mean, it's crazy to think, too, this incoming recruiting class, especially the local guys, they were, I think, one when Bibby was traded from the Kings. Some of them not even that. So, it's crazy. That's how you know he's made a lasting impact on Sacramento when players that were 1 year old when he was traded away, they still know who he is. And Lavernov is going to be a great get for Sac State. I mean, he can score at all three levels. He's Rocklin's all-time leading scorer. And if you know some of the people that have come through that program, that is a tremendous accomplishment because they had guys like Brendan Lane and Sean Harris, stars come through that program. I think it's a slam dunk guy to get for Sac State, especially if you're wanting to make this transition. I know that we always talk about, FCS, FBS for football, but the gap of, I guess that level of the Big Sky, stuff like that versus the Mountain West in basketball. I mean, that's a pretty big jump as well. And the Mountain West has actually been one of the best mid-major conferences. So that is a guy that you want to bring in if you want to be making that jump into a bigger conference. Mike Bibby, like you say, it is a splash hire. There are some question marks of, hey, can he handle the recruiting side of things? There's whole different aspects to things in college that you don't necessarily have to deal with in high school. But at the same time, I mean, you look at a guy like Deion Sanders went from coaching high school straight into coaching college at Jackson State, and he did pretty well over there. I mean, it helps when you have 4 and 5 star recruits like your son and some of his buddies coming over there. But at the same time, you still have to find a way to coach a game. Like Chris said, if you know how to coach and you can coach it well and find ways to win, then success will follow you. And Bibby has
I
had
mean,
success at
I
the
mean,
coaching level. So
the best example of coaching is you look at the NCAA tournament. Look at Drake's head coach, Ben McCollum, 1 year at Drake after dominating the Division II level, brings up 4 D2 guys, makes a big impact. Now he's coaching in the Big Ten. The biggest thing here
absolutely.
is as that financial gap grows in the college ranks from bigger Division I schools to middle Division I schools to lower Division I schools, you need donor support to be able to stay alive, to be able to function at this level. We're seeing that in the tournament. Why are there maybe this is a one-off of just less upsets, but you've also got to look at just that growing financial gap, the portal, what NIL is like, what these different boosters, donors, collectives can pay. This can help grow that gap, especially as some schools. We just saw St. Francis, a D1 school where there's some local commits in sports, is moving from D1 and just announced its transition to Division III. So there's a growing gap, and this is something that you would have to think will get more money involved into the program. There's going to be a lot of Sacramento people excited, donors, boosters, everything else that keeps you in that discussion as this college landscape and conferences keeps changing and changing seemingly by the day.
I agree.
I was with good stuff there, guys. I was talking with other Sacramento media yesterday on a Zoom interview call with Mike Bibby, and he was emphatic on the excitement and the challenge and all that, but teaching the game. And he said it all starts with habits, practice habits, and cutting hard here. Be repetition. We're going to recruit Sacramento. We're going to recruit California. This is Division I basketball. They are moving from the worst gym in America, Division I, the Nest, 1,000 people could squeeze in there, into an on-campus 3,200 seat venue called the Well. They're doing that construction now. And this is what Bibby said as I close my story in the Sacramento Bee on him. He goes, I told Mark Orr, the athletic director, Luke Wood, the president, that I'm going to turn this around. They're going to play hard, play for each other, and we're headed for the NCAA tournament bid. I have a lot of NBA players who want to send their sons to me to play. We have to change the mindset of the program so we could be a winner. We can get kids. We're going to have that Deion Sanders impact stars in the building. Active NBA players stop by. I don't know if 3,200 seating is enough room to watch these kids play. So quote, he's confident. It is a big name appeal. And, like Chris Jackson just said, you got to have some deep-pocketed donors. We have not seen that for Sac State football. It's a 70-year-old program. So as you try to move up to different classification, you got to have that money, that backing. And Sacramento State moved from Division II to Division I in men's basketball in 1991 and have had two winning seasons, both under Brian Katz, the local born product, great coach. And so it's been tough sledding. So we will see. We will see. We're going to touch on Troy Taylor here in a second, but let's just liven it up a little bit. Um, who, some Major League Baseball kids who are going to start on opening day as the season gets going. And Jordan was kind of thumbing through some of this. And this is a baseball town 50 years ago, and it's a baseball town now. Who are some of those guys, Jordan? And if you got any of note as well, Chris Jackson, jump in.
Well, I got my eye on to start. I'll hit with the Placer County guys first. Right now, it's a strangely thin year for Placer County guys starting on opening day. On the rosters, there's a lot of guys in the minor league systems who are going to be coming up. But I mean, the obvious one people think of first, Logan Webb with the Giants, opening day starter. He was an all-star last year, second in the NL Cy Young voting in 2023. He threw 204 innings last year. So, kind of a going against the grain of what baseball is becoming, where, the analytics say, hey, you pull your starter after 5 innings, stuff like that. Logan, he's had a few times where he goes the distance, goes deep into games. So a real workhorse kind of for them. And then another one was a high school teammate of Logan Webb and took a little bit of a non-traditional route to the bigs. Nick Mears, who's a reliever with the Brewers, had a solid season last year, the best season he's had in the majors. He had 75 strikeouts in 57 innings. He went to Sac City College out of high school, played independent ball for a little bit, signed a deal and kind of bounced around. He was with the Pirates for a few years, Rockies, and now he's in Milwaukee, and a big piece of a bullpen of a team that could be a playoff team. A couple other names to just keep an eye on. The biggest one, really, Daniel Susak, former star at Jesuit, two-sport star at Jesuit. He was their starting quarterback there, a long time, played for the Lincoln Potters, I think 3 or 4 summers, star at Arizona, first-round draft pick of the A's. He is on track to come up this year. I know the A's have another local product, at least Sac Joaquin section product in Tyler Soderstrom. I believe he's a Turlock area guy. And then I know there is a Wood Creek, or not Wood Creek, I'm sorry, Oak Ridge alum with the Brewers as well. He's starting the season on the IL. Let me double check the name real quick. It is Robert Gasser, another reliever for them. And then one more shout out, Mike Margema, former big league catcher with the Mariners, was the opening day starter. Granite Bay alum, used to be the Potters coach. He was the hitting coach with the Marlins High A affiliate, the Beloy Sky Carp. Which apparently is another term for a goose. Did not know that. But this year, he's making the move up. He is now the hitting coach with their AAA affiliate, the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp. Another great minor league brand right there. And we can go all day talking about minor league brands. But Chris, I'll throw it over to you because I know you're the guy that is out in the Elk Grove area. And Elk Grove has a long list of guys that are going to be on opening day rosters.
I mean, I think you just go to the top of Elk Grove's page alone. Who's the big alumnus in sports agency? Scott Boras. And that just starts this long list of guys that come out of there. Nick Madrigal, Rowdy Tellez. You look at Derek Hill, a center fielder for the Tigers. There's JD Davis. I mean, this list is kind of freakishly unbelievable. If you just want to go outside of baseball at Elk Grove High School, look who else is from there. You've got Tyler the Creator, a big recording artist. You've got, I mean, everybody. You've got founding member of punk bands. You've got pros in multiple sports. You've got Tom Nunez. You've got Lance Briggs, who was a linebacker for the Bears. Obviously, Bill Cartwright just has a book coming out, and a basketball legend, a former Knicks coach. I know my father's a big New York Knicks guy coming from New York, so I know he just loves that name, and I love how that all kind of ties together. But there's a lot of Elk Grove High School guys that are in the big leagues making their way up. And that's what this city really prides itself on. You go to Elk Grove High School, you see the banners, the names there. You go to Franklin High School, it's the same way. And it's going to be a lot of those kids coming up from these schools that are going to be on that same kind of trajectory.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You talk about Franklin baseball in Elk Grove. It starts with great coaching, and Brian Kilby's a great coach, and he's got section championships, and he's got near misses in section championships, and he's got guys who've been drafted, and he's gonna have more. I think there was an army of scouts there. I'll toss back to you in that in a second. Jeff Carlson was a long time coach for Elk Grove Thunder and Herd baseball, and his son was a first round pick, Dylan Carlson. He's still in the bigs. A lot of times these star players at Elk Grove would mentor the next generation, and they become 4-year starters, and they all picked up on the work ethic and what it takes to be great at a school like that with all that history and pedigree. And Rowdy Tellez was a monstrous slugger, and he looked the part at 6'4", 230 pounds in high school. And he had a home run once at Laguna Creek, and I remember describing it as he hit a shot that went over the right center field fence, and it bounced and slammed up against the doghouse. That's just kind of, you just don't get a lot of home run calls where it just slammed up against the doghouse. And then in the rain, in some kind of non-league showcase game at Rayleigh Field, home of the Sacramento A's this summer, Rowdy Tellez in the rain hit a shot out of the park on right center, and Jeff Carlson, the coach, said, never seen a high school kid hit with that kind of power in that kind of heavy air. So stardom there, here, there, and everywhere. And it is hard to cycle through the minor leagues. There's so much work to be done, and there's so many breaks that have to happen. And so kudos there. But right back to you, Chris Jackson. You saw a whole army of scouts for a Franklin High baseball game. There are Sacramento Bee top ranked team. I believe they're your Sacramento region section top ranked team as well. What was going on? How many were there, and who were the prospects?
You could look behind home plate. I know I posted the photo. I think it's in the Monday. I'll be doing a separate feature just on Dylan Wood and how he's become this sort of ace. And there was probably, I counted 5 or 6 guys with their radar guns behind home plate, which is just a normal fixture at Franklin High School behind that backstop. And when you watch Dylan Wood, a senior righty from Franklin, easy to see why. He hit 96 miles an hour again. He's consistently hitting those mid-90s with that fastball, but he's got a changeup. He's got a slider that he just overpowers you with. 15 strikeouts, a 1-hitter on Monday against Laguna Creek, and that 1 hit did not come until 1 out in the 6th inning. Baseball America has him as the number 83 overall draft prospect in 2025. Another page top end prospect says he's projected to go 2nd or 3rd round, and you've got him rated by, I believe it's Prep Baseball has him the number 15 right-handed pitcher nationally. He's been a USA Baseball gold medalist, but this is a kid that he's got some of that Nick Abraham kind of personality persona to him. Abraham now pitching at University of Tennessee, but just that gravitas, I guess you could say. He's smiling on the mound. There's guys chirping at him, and he just laughs and smiles on it. At the same time, he finds that and is still very businesslike with it. But when you throw like he does in the mid-90s at this level, you've got a great complement of off speed, of a changeup and a slider. Scouts are going to salivate at that, and he's committed to Arizona. Maybe he still goes there regardless. It just depends on how things shake out, contracts, speaking with agents, and then if you're drafted, how that contract looks and whether or not he goes pro right after this. There's still a great scholarship waiting for him at Arizona where you can still make money as well as you play good at the college baseball level. Good travel, good facilities, good resources. So either way, Dylan Wood, he's set up for a while on the diamond.
It's always fun to watch a dominating pitcher at any level. I'm a guy who likes a 15 strikeout game. It's just such a gift, power, domination. We've seen it over the years. And Jordan, are any prospects this spring for baseball? Any stat marvels of note? Any sluggers? What have you found?
We've got a few. One, too, I had a very similar situation with the Dylan Wood one at Monday's game between Rocklin and Del Oro. Joey Lorenzini, he has had 4 starts this season, and he has had pro scouts at every single one of his starts. He's committed to Arkansas, but, there are scouts at all 4 of his starts right now. Then there's a good chance he can be getting looked at and getting drafted, and, potentially a high draft pick, because a lot of times if you're a college commit like that, scouts aren't really going to put much thought into taking a look at you unless they, especially at a high level school, unless they think there's a real shot at you going pretty high and them getting you. He said at one point there were 27 scouts with radar guns pointing at him when he was pitching against Roseville. Just unbelievable. And, fun moment in that game, the Arkansas commit for Rocklin on the mound, Lorenzini, going up against Mason Belding at Del Oro, the LSU commit. So high school rivals going to be college rivals. Lorenzini struck him out twice, but Belding took him deep for a 2-run shot as well. So they both landed some punches. And then after the game, they're chumming it up. They're good buddies. They play travel ball together and just talking about how fun it is to face off against each other and how, that rivalry is. But the stat marvel I want to shout out is Landon Plout at Lincoln High School. He's a Jessup University commit. In their series last week against Colfax, he went 2 for 4 with 2 home runs and 6 RBIs in game 1 of the series. And how's he follow that up in game 2? He decides to come out and add 2 more RBIs, even though he went 0 for 4 in the game. 2 more RBIs, so that's 8 total on the series. And on the mound, he just throws a no-hitter and strikes out 11 while walking 2. So unbelievable for him. Lincoln's pitching staff has been tremendous, really. If you want to give a shout out as a whole, they have struck out. I want to say they haven't given up an earned run in, I want to say, almost a week or two. I know they haven't in the last couple league games. And then another shout out I want to give Michaela Finn, sorry, at Del Oro. She is 5th in the section in strikeouts right now on the season, only a sophomore. She's been tremendous, a big reason why the Golden Eagles have been so strong lately. A 1.31 ERA on the year, and she has 81 strikeouts and 9 walks in 53 innings pitched. I mean, she's been tremendous so far, and the rich get richer in that league of SFL pitching. I mean, if you want to talk about some dominant athletics, 3 of the 4 best teams right now, I think, in NorCal are in the SFL and softball, and some of the best pitchers we have there. Oak Ridge has that 1-2 punch right now. I guess it's just a 1 punch with Kennedy Freeland out for the year, but Peyton Pryor over at Rocklin. You have the younger Duncan sister over at Whitney, and now Finn putting her name out there as one of the dominant pitchers. So really a fun group we have. And Chris, I know there was a dominant pitcher in an area Joe and I don't cover, but probably the most dominant pitching performance of the last week down in the southern part of the section.
Yeah, let me go through. It feels like the year of the no-hitter. Like I put that in our roundup this morning. That's the way it feels, because Cameron Thornburg, a sophomore at Calaveras, a perfect game last week. She tossed in the section final as a freshman for them. Perfect game last week. Monday, a 1-hitter with 18 strikeouts. That's one of the few no-hitters, because at Oakdale baseball, Landon Shute, who was a Georgia committed junior, tosses a no-hitter Monday against Sierra and Valley Oak League play. You've got East Nicholas, Kyla Glennon, and Stevie Knight, a combined no-hitter. And Stevie Knight's also a star hitter who hitting 667 going to Abilene Christian next year. Jaden Oldwin just had one for Vacaville yesterday. St. Mary's of Stockton, a combined no-hitter. 2 D1 commits also pitched some of those innings. Tanner Grove going to Washington. Dax Hardcastle going to Mississippi State. And then there's Tyler Ritter, the son of Roseville boys coach Bobby Ritter, also a good basketball player. It seems like he's just this ace of spades every Monday. 0.80 ERA. Opponents, or actually, I'm not even writing down his baseball stats correctly, because his opponent's batting average is below 100 against him this year, but he had another phenomenal start this past week for Roseville, pulling that up right now, but he's actually got a 0.27 ERA this year. Opponents hitting 0.077 on him. He's 10, 15 strikeout type guy a game. He's hard to hit. One of those multi-sporters. We've obviously got to keep celebrating there, but Roseville's got it. Ace pitcher, a great junior class in multiple sports, and Tyler Ritter is one of those guys that I think we'll be hearing committing somewhere pretty soon.
That's great stuff. And our good friend Nick Pecoraro in our Sacramento Bee softball news and notes and rankings this week had a great lead item on Destiny Christian Academy of Sacramento, the former Capital Christian. Isla Tua is a 2-time Bee Player of the Year. And she's headed to LSU, and she's a junior flamethrower who struck out 21. All 21 outs were strikeout. Only a 1-out single in the 4th inning kept her from a perfect game. She's been the driving force for 2 consecutive section championships, 2 Northern California CIF championships. Humble, classy, good student, good person, and just a terrific player. Her mom was a Bee Player of the Year in 2001 or two, or Mary Jo Truesdale at the Sheldon Huskies and Elk Grove Unified. And her mom had so much power as a hitter at Sheldon, she once fouled off a pitch, and her teammate who was on the on deck circle, the ball rocketed over there and fractured her forearm. So that's some power right there. And so cool to see the mom and then the daughter with their lineage of greatness there. Let's touch real quick on Troy Taylor again and get your quick thoughts. And you may not even have really thoughts here. He's dismissed as a Stanford football coach. It's a blow to a pride fight. It was a dream job. 2 years, 6 wins total. He is relentlessly driven and committed. He's the finest football coach I've ever been around, as great a coach as I've ever been around for any sport. Well, what about the belittling and bullying and all that? And unfortunate. It's out of character. The school initially backed him for months and months until the news broke out. I think they buckled under the pressure, which is common, especially if there's donors and sponsors and recruiting involved. He will bounce back. Doesn't like any of this. Doesn't look like anybody's trying to get monetary damages. But it's an unfortunate blow for Troy Taylor. I think he'll be a head coach again. Um, so maybe an offensive coordinator, but for a prideful guy, well, he's fine. He's set financially and all that. Yeah, but you're just damaged and bruised, and um, he can be. I'm going to have an interview with him at some point, and we'll talk about this. And I talked to him a couple days ago off the record for a half hour a day before the news broke, but. Um, um, kind of a stunner down there. Now they're trying to get a new coach, and is it going to be an interim coach? That'll be a coveted job. He'll be a coveted guy as an offensive coordinator. I don't know if somebody will hire him this late in the process because spring ball starts right now for some schools or next for others like Stanford. So really interesting what happens from there for Coach Troy Taylor, where he lands, and how Stanford football bounces back from this. So there we have it.
Maybe he gets hired as an analyst as well too at a college for this next 2 years, especially with how late it is in the process. You see a lot of these Division I schools, they need an offensive type analyst with his background. That could be very useful too. I have nothing to say about the accusations, what happened, because I'm not privy to that. I wasn't there. I'm not going to accuse one side or the other no matter what, because quite frankly, I wasn't there. The only people that know anything are the people actually allegedly involved. But he's a guy that's coached really well. He did great stuff at Sacramento State. He started his coaching career at Casa Roble in Orangevale in 1994 as an assistant coach. Quickly moved up to University of Colorado as a GA, receivers coach, to Cal, Christian Brothers, and Joe, as you chronicled, as good as anybody, his time at Folsom was two different stints, then going up D1, becoming a Sac State head coach. He's a guy that this might be a temporary stain on the resume and all of that, but time heals all wounds. The guy's going to come back. He'll get a job sometime or another, and he could become an analyst. He could help out at a high school this year. There's a lot of different opportunities. We saw when Nick Rolovich had everything happen at Washington State during COVID. He ended up helping at San Marin High School, where his son's now a 3-star prospect. And look where Rolovich is now. He's back on Cal's staff, helping out Justin Wilcox and plugging in all the different gaps and holes that program has. So but you'll see Troy Taylor's name back in the coaching circles in really no time.
I agree. And Jordan, before we throw to you on this, I remember talking to Troy Taylor in 1993 or 94 when he took the Cass Roble job 30 years ago. And he said he'd already done some college coaching as an assistant. And he said, I can't stand bouncing around the country. And it's just a new job. And he goes, I'm going to settle in. We're going to get married and have kids, have a family, and I'm going to get into high school coaching. He loved coaching Folsom, the Bulldogs. He's the one who put in a spread option to give Folsom football a chance. We think of Folsom never having any down seasons. They've been a juggernaut since 2009. But in the mid-2000s, those guys, the Folsom Bulldogs, playing power football, had a hard time winning 2 games in a row. In 1990 or in 2006 or so, Folsom went down to Elk Grove for a Division I playoff game and got beat like 58-0. And they said, Chris Richardson and Troy Taylor said, we got to come up with a different offense and get guys in open space, and it just took off. And he would have been a career guy there. Colleges started recruiting him. Did wonderful work at Sacramento State, and his career is not finished. He's only 56 years old, but it is kind of a blow. And Jordan, you think about how great football at Folsom's been over the years, but they weren't always great. We think of, Del Oro's had longer legacy of greatness, and Folsom doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. But I did see a news report, and I think it was through Cold Country Media, where they're going to close the campus. So you're not going to have as many at Folsom, and that's been a big bugaboo for rivals for years. Now they get kids from everywhere. Jordan, that would be interesting if there's no more incoming transfers or inter-district transfers at Folsom. It's been a concern. The school's got almost 3,000 students, and they're going to have a new high school up there in the next year or two as well.
It's definitely interesting to see how that is going to impact Folsom sports because, at some point, people say, oh, they get these kids from other schools, but at some point, too, a program kind of in a way recruits itself. I know we've talked about it, but people move to Folsom when their kids are in 7th or 8th grade so that their kid can go play for Coach Doherty in Folsom. And before it was Coach Richardson and Coach Taylor and, whoever else before that. And like you said, there were times where Folsom wasn't the powerhouse that it was. It was, Del Oro was the powerhouse in the early 2000s, and Grant was, and Nevada Union, and 70s and 80s, it was Cordova and Placer, and there's different schools that have kind of had their time. Valley, which shut down their football team this last year, has been a juggernaut at times. But Mike Ray, the former Colfax record reporter, and I say Mr. Colfax because he knows everything Colfax, he has posted stories before of Colfax beating Folsom in the 90s in football. I mean, if those two even played now, it would be just people would gawk at what was going on with that, and let alone Colfax, winning that game, little Division 5 school playing big bad Folsom. But yeah, this is going to have major implications, I think. To say it's going to, cripple Folsom, I say is a bit of a stretch, but I mean, at the same time, look at what happened with Del Oro. They closed their campus from, they had open enrollment where people could go from anywhere, and they closed it, I want to say 5 or so years ago. And to say that their athletics haven't taken a ding from that it definitely has impacted it a little bit. They had a stretch too, and I mean, it also helped having Casey Taylor as the head coach, but they had a stretch where they went to, I think, 5 state titles in 8 years or something like that. So it does impact that a little bit. It's going to impact Folsom's athletics. Is it going to cripple the football team? I don't necessarily think so, because a good coach can hide a lot of things. But yeah, maybe there's a world where Folsom isn't winning, 10 SFL titles in a row. Maybe you get a Rocklin, a Granite Bay, an Oak Ridge. Someone's in that mix. If you're Oak Ridge, you're probably excited about this because, hey, that losing streak that you have against your rivals, maybe that gap closes a little bit. So I do think this is going to lead to some more competitiveness in the SFL in terms of just Folsom football maybe taking a little bit of a ding, but I don't think this means they're going anywhere by any means.
Now, Folsom's hired the right coaches. They've got the staff with it as well, and they've got the support. If people want to go somewhere, they're still going to find a way. I mean, look at how many homes keep getting built, apartments, homes, everything else, and we'll see how this impacts them. I think this would be a great topic for us to have a next discussion. I think I'm going to do a little research this week and see which districts have open enrollment in all of Northern California, which have closed that, and see how that's kind of see the trends for those schools after, see how that's impacted Del Oro after, some other schools in Northern California after as well. But Folsom speaks for itself, but there's no cheating recruiting going on. My thing always is, if you don't like it, find a way to get better. It's as simple as that. Anyone can become great at something if you put in the resources and you hire the right people.
It's well said, and great point, Jordan, about Casey Taylor's impact at Del Oro. He's doing great work now at his alma mater at Oak Ridge. That is the school, that is the football program at Oak Ridge and El Dorado Hills that I think has the most potential to close the gap with Folsom. They've been close before in We meet them in multiple championship finals. They've had some thrillers in regular season games. There's been times where Folsom has pulled away as they pull away from everybody. But when Oak Ridge had a three-peat in section championship Division II play in the mid 2000s, that's when there was open enrollment. And so there's that discussion, and that is a good topic. Another topic that we're going to hit on next week is legacy coaches. I was honored to be a guest speaker at Mike Albergini, Coach Al, the famed late great football coach at Grant. I was one of the guest speakers, and it was good to share some stories. So we'll touch on legacy of coaches, lasting rights, and things like that. We've already mentioned today. So we'll do that. But as always, follow us on social media. Pass the word about our podcast. We're only going to keep doing this if people want to hear it and see us. We appreciate everybody for the great Chris Jackson and the great bearded Georgeson. I'm Joe Davidson. We will see you guys all soon. Thanks for joining us.